So I had a bit of an epiphany a couple months ago, and maybe it's something that's really obvious to a lot of people, I'm not sure, but it made me realize a lot of things about how best to practice guitar and the kind of things that we sometimes run into that might frustrate us. And it's really something that actually helped me with my gaming, but I made this connection with guitar playing, which helped me in both aspects. And by sharing this, I'm hoping that it might help others the other way around. You know, rather than help them with their gaming, that'll help with their guitar playing. Just to give you a little background, I've always been into video games. I wouldn't call myself a gamer per se, but I mean, all the way back to when I was like 13 years old, that's probably the only time I would call myself a gamer, because I had an NES, the original Nintendo console, and I played the hell out of that thing. Played a lot of games for a lot of hours, pretty much until I started playing guitar. Once I started playing guitar, that kind of took priority over everything else. But since then, I've always been into video games. I've always checked out what's coming out. Every once in a while, I get the bug and buy a game or something and play it for a while. But honestly, I just really didn't have the time, the money, or the interest to play that much. But I was always interested in it. It wasn't until a couple of years ago that I got a Nintendo Switch for my kids. Totally for my kids, not for myself at all. But yeah, it was a great opportunity to finally get into all those games that I wanted to play all this time. Finally get into some new games, because I was always behind, always playing old games. And that, in combination with the pandemic, gave me a lot of time to just sit down and try a lot of games. So that's really when I reconnected. I got Breath of the Wild, and that was the first time I really played a game that I got really immersed into it. And I played other games as well, and that was great. The thing was, whenever I played a game that got too hard, I would basically do one of two things. Either I'd quit the game, or if it had a difficulty setting, I'd switch it to easy mode and finish it that way. Because I was interested in finishing the story or whatever, but it just got to a point where I was getting more frustrated than having fun, but I still wanted to finish the game. But it still felt cheap. It felt, I don't know, like I was cheating. It felt like I wasn't getting the full experience of the game. And what I told myself, I mean, it's easy to say like, hey, you know, it's just a game. I have other priorities. I'm not going to spend so much time doing this. And that's fine. I mean, it's true. It is just a game. But then an interesting thing happened a couple months ago. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound came out. If you don't know, Ninja Gaiden is a game franchise. Goes all the way back to even before the Nintendo. I think there was an arcade game originally. But I played the NES version, the original Ninja Gaiden, and it's actually one of my favorite games. So when I heard that this new version came out, which was the first 2D version of Ninja Gaiden that's come out in years, I had to try it out. So I got it first day, probably the first game I've gotten ever on the first day it came out. And I started playing it. It was fun. I was having a blast. And then I got to like the third boss in the game, and I couldn't beat it. And I switched to easy mode and beat the boss that way. But again, felt like I was cheating, basically. The thing was, at that time, I was watching a lot of videos about the game on YouTube. And there was this discourse about whether this game lived up to the original as far as difficulty goes, because the original game is notoriously very hard. And compared to that, everybody was saying that this game was pretty easy and you could cheese your way through it. And I was sitting there like, I can't get through the third boss. And I actually played the original Ninja Gaiden, and I beat it. I beat the original Ninja Gaiden multiple times, I think. I don't remember exactly, but I played it. I played Ninja Gaiden 2, and I beat that one too. And then I thought, if this new game is so easy, why can't I beat it? And that's when I kind of remembered the mindset I had when I played that original game. I remember learning every little movement. Like, just to give you some context for those of you who haven't played that game, there's a lot of platforming And you have to get through these levels with a lot of like places where you can fall down. And the screen is full of enemies, especially towards the end of the game. And you have to basically memorize each level and go through it making very precise moves, like jump at a very specific time, slash through an enemy at a very specific time, get this power up at a specific time, but not the other power up, so you can get past the next part, and so on. And then you get to the boss, and you have to have a certain power up when you get to that boss to make it possible to beat him. And you had like 3 really difficult levels in a row, followed by 3 bosses, one after the other. And if you lost to one of the bosses, they sent you all the way back 3 levels. So it was hell, but I loved it back then. So then I thought, if I could beat that game, how is it possible that I can't beat this game? So I went back to that level, I beat on easy mode, switched back to regular difficulty, and beat it properly. And then that's where by remembering that mindset, I approached it from a more methodical approach. I realized that whenever I got to a boss or any difficult part, I'd kind of panic and just kind of smash buttons and go crazy. I didn't really think that much about what I was doing, or I'd get impatient after a while and just kind of try to beat the boss that way. So then I came with a more methodical approach. I'd get to the boss, I'd try to read his moves, I'd pay attention to the movements they made before they made a certain attack. I'd figure out how to evade that attack and when I could hit him. And then each time I'd try again, I'd focus on one thing that wasn't allowing me to beat him. I'd get to a certain phase, and then he'd kill me, and then I'd go back, get to that phase, and focus on how to evade those new moves that he was doing on that phase, and so on. If you play games, you probably know already. I'm not telling you anything new. But again, this was something I kind of forgot. I was so disconnected from playing games, I just kind of forgot that mindset that I had. But anyways, now to tie this to guitar, I'm sure you can already make some parallels. At the same time that all this was happening, I was working on my arrangement for Question by System of a Down, which you can check out if you haven't already watched. And that arrangement had some very particular challenges, because that song switches a lot between different parts, and it's a very drastic change. And there's a very specific part in the verse, which let me switch to my other guitar, and I'll show you on that one. I already have the right tuning on this one. So the part in question is this one. Actually, I play that with a thumb pick. Hold on. So I go from this part, and then I jump to this part, right? And then that jump from, I have to have both these fingers on those frets on the right string at the exact time, right before I play that, you know? So I go from this, and just getting that really accurately, you know, like barely have any time to get those fingers right where they have to go. It has to be really precise and really fast. So that's where I made that connection, that both in guitar playing and in video games, you're making these very precise, accurate movements at a given time, reacting to certain things. I'm not saying it's exactly the same. It's not a perfect analogy, but still, you're making these movements in, microseconds. And whether it's, shifting from one position to the other, or just going from one fret to the other, it's still very precise movements that we have to do in the guitar with both hands. And obviously in the game, you're working with a limited moveset. You just have so many buttons on the controller, so it's not that as complex as playing guitar, but the idea behind it is the same. So when I made that connection, that allowed me in the game to be a lot more methodical, as I already am when I practice guitar. Because when you face a difficult part in the guitar or any instrument, what you do is you break it down and you work on one thing at a time, or you focus on that very precise moment when you have to make that change. For example, here I was just going from, and I just focus on that switch. And Right now, I mean, I can do it easily, but while I was practicing, it was a lot more challenging. And the same in the game, every time I get to a boss or get to a certain level, I get up to a certain point, and then whenever I had something that wasn't allowing me to move forward, I'd focus on beating that. The difference and the advantage that the guitar has is that when you play a game, the only way to practice is to just keep trying. So if you're fighting a boss, you have to repeat from zero again, go back to the boss, start from the beginning, go up to the point where you're having problems and try to figure it out then. And if you don't, then you have to start all over again. On the guitar, we have the benefit of not always having to start from zero again. We can jump to the precise moment that's giving us problems and practice that. And there was another thing actually that I got out of this, and it was figuring out a way to A, find the time to play video games, and B, not get ridiculously frustrated when I lost. The truth is that I really don't have that much time to play games. That was always part of the problem. But that's where I figured out a system where, well, for one, that's where the Nintendo Switch really helped. Because having a handheld device that I could always have in hand and just grab and play, that made a huge difference. Not having to boot up the PC or whatever. That just made it a whole lot easier. The other thing is that I got in the habit of just playing for a few minutes at a time. I just pause the game, turn off the Switch, and just pick up where I was without having to turn off the game and launch it again each time I played. So I'd play, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And then when I had more time, maybe I'd play half an hour or more. Doesn't happen that often, but once in a while I'd get an hour or two in. So whenever I get frustrated, I just put the Switch down, go do something else, and get back to it whenever I felt like it. This especially helped me recently. After beating Ragebound, I got the smart idea of playing Silksong, Hollow Knight Silksong. And if you follow the gaming world, you probably know that game is, well, let's just say right now everybody's talking about how difficult the game is and if it's too difficult. Needless to say, if I hadn't had this recent epiphany, I probably wouldn't have gotten as far as I've gotten so far. But it definitely tests the limits of one's patience and discipline. But that's what I've been doing. I play it for a bit. Whenever I get frustrated, I just leave it and go do something else. And I think that's allowed me to play more often and to keep this kind of healthy relationship with games without going overboard. And that's something that I see a lot in guitar. One of the things I always told my students when I gave lessons was that it was really important to have the guitar out. Like, I'd have students that would, have the lesson and then put the guitar in the case and put it under the bed and not touch it until the next lesson. It's super important to have the guitar accessible. And whatever you use, if you use amps or if you use your computer for practicing or your phone or anything, it's really important to have everything so that at any moment you just grab the guitar and just go. Have this little friction that's going to prevent you from playing. And also just seeing the guitar in your living room or anywhere also motivates you to play it, So I also saw that parallel. It's all about setting yourself up for success and not for failure. So anyways, that's my little epiphany. Hope it was insightful. Maybe it's something really obvious. It allowed me not only to enjoy my gaming more, it allowed me to get further in these games that I was having trouble with. And it actually did help me with my practice. I'm actually, right now, I agreed to do this Dream Theater tribute, which we're going to do in a couple months. And talking about going back to old times, I've had to go back and learn all these Dream Theater songs that I used to play. And my chops are nowhere near where they were back then. So I'm actually having a bit of a time, getting myself back up to speed to be able to play that music. And this has also helped me with that, being able to break down stuff and take it a bit at a time, and making it as easy as possible for me to just sit down and practice that stuff. It's all about, on the one hand, breaking stuff down so you can focus on the different parts that are giving you a hard time, and on the other hand, making it easy on yourself so that you find the time to practice. A lot of the times it's not so much about having discipline, but just making it easier for you to do something. I hope that made sense. Anyways, that's it for now. Hope you found that insightful, and I'll let you go with a little guitar music. See you next time. Bye.